Welcome to the podcast for real-life heroines. Let's embark on a journey that unveils the extraordinary stories of everyday women who redefine what it means to be a heroine or hero. Life is a tapestry of inspiration and magic, and today's episode is no exception. Here's your host, Susanna Liller.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm excited to talk with my guest, Christine Richards. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Susanna. It's nice to be here.
And we just have to start by telling you what we just went through. So, because it's so applicable to what Christine is all about. One of the things that Christine does is encourages us to write letters. And she doesn't write letters, she's not talking about emails. She's talking about the old-fashioned pen to paper writing letters. And so as we were getting ready to come on, Susanna plugs in her new spiffy, well, it's not new, I've been using it, my Yeti microphone. And we try to make things work, and I'm not hearing Christine. And Christine's going, shaking her head, and I'm shaking my head, and I'm going like this. And Christine's brother is deaf, and she knows sign language, which we'll talk about in a minute. And she was wishing that I knew it because. So, long story short, I unplugged the Yeti and then we were able to talk. And some of you are probably going, "Oh, Susanna, I know what you did wrong." But at any rate, it's a perfect beginning to speak with somebody who has written books about noticing, about writing letters, which I'm going to tell you about. So, perfect example, Christine, don't you think?
I do. You're right, Susanna. It's the best laid plans, as they say. It's always a challenge.
And at some point, I wrote her as we were texting each other, trying to figure this out. I wrote, "Okay, this is a good reason to stop using computers and just write letters to each other." But yeah, then I wouldn't be seeing you, and our audience wouldn't be seeing and hearing this exchange. So let me just, if you would allow me to introduce you.
Okay.
So Christine is a writer, a graphic designer, a cut paper collage artist, an avid letter writer, and hobbyist. She has published 3 books. And so I'm a big fan, Christine, and I think you know this. I have all of her all of her books. And the first one was a snail mail guide to cursive writing practice. And it's the most beautiful book. And this book has actual stationery in it that she has designed. I mean, you're all going to want this book. It's it's beautiful. So you go to the very end, and there it is. Stationery. She tells you how to write your letter. She gives you tips on it, and then she actually gives you stationery. So that's one. Then,
I have to say that was the very first book I did, and that one is actually out of print.
oh, yes, well,
Yes.
that's a shame.
Well, I know, but it's just so labor intensive.
It is, I would think it would be so.
I did a follow-up book to replace it.
And the name of that one is?
That's the snail mail guide too. That one is called Postmark. The other one is a snail mail guide
okay.
to cursive
Okay.
writing practice.
So they can go to your website, which we will tell people, is waystationwhistle.com. And
Right.
we'll have that in the show notes, but they can order these books.
Not that one.
No, not that one, but the one to replace it.
Yes, the other 3.
Right. So the second one that I have, Things I Notice While Walking the Dog.
Yes. Yeah.
This is another beautiful, beautiful, beautifully illustrated book. And
Thank you.
I'm actually going to read from it later.
Hmm.
She gave me permission. And then her most recent one, A Few Good Things About Today.
Yes.
I'm going to ask her, well, just I'll read on the back. Like a lot of journals, there's plenty of space in this book to write, but this one's just for the good stuff. Some days it will be easy to find a few good things about your day. Other days you'll have to look, really look, so keep searching. Because once you start looking, chances are you'll find more than a few good things about your day. And this is what Christine is about. And I also call Christine Chrissy, so I'm going to interchange. But um, she is like, I guess this is the hallmark of an artist. She's always searching and paying attention and carefully noticing. Would you agree, Chrissy?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah, I think I
that's
found that in my letter writing, and I found it
yeah.
on my website and my blog. There's just so much to see that we a lot of times overlook. So
Right.
it's
You said to me, there's so much we miss if we're not paying attention.
that's right.
That's what when I read to people the things I notice when I walk the dog, um, it's a perfect example of that. But let me now invite you to tell your heroine's journey story because as you were looking at my website and you saw the heroine's journey map, which I'm going to also include in the show notes of this
Hmm.
podcast so people can see it, you decided to share with me your story using the prompts from the map and the journey. So I'm going to ask you to talk about it, and I'm probably going to be asking you some questions. Um, but it starts, as you noted, well, and you titled it Becoming a Writer.
Hmm.
So we go on many journeys, right? And you've been on many, but this is your becoming a writer journey. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So your call was what? How did you receive a call to do something new?
Well, I'm a freelance graphic designer, so I was working on my own and building my business, and it had been going pretty well for quite a while. Um, but then I just was very stressed. You know, I had some big clients, a lot of work, one person shop. It was hard to keep up some days. And I just was burnt out and I needed to change. And I had never gone to school right out of high school. And I thought, well, I would like to get a college degree. So I suppose now might be a good time. So I decided that that's what I would do. Uh,
And that was your leap. And that's a big leap, right? I mean, how were you feeling? Were you scared to do it? Were you excited? How did that come about, your leap?
I was scared. Because in order to do it, I would have to drop and wanted, in fact, to drop my biggest client at the time because that was what was causing the most stress. So that meant a big reduction in my salary, big changes all the way around. So, you know, I did call my husband in the middle of the day and said, when you get home, I'd like to talk to you about something. And the poor man, by the time he got home, he had no idea what to expect.
Oh
Uh,
gosh.
but it worked in my favor because by the time he did get home and I told him what I wanted to do was to go to school, he was like, oh, okay, that sounds great.
Great. So he was supportive, which
Very.
very helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But
Very.
other people maybe were saying, Chrissy, you're crazy. You shouldn't leave. This is a good job.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, oh really? Why?
Yeah.
You know, I think too, I love school. I know not everybody does, but I've always enjoyed school. So it was a very exciting idea for me at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
I did think that I would go. One of my brothers is deaf, and I had learned some sign language growing up. We didn't use it as much in the home. We had what they call home signing, which is, you know, if you're living with someone all the time, it's passable. It's not the best way, but I thought it'd be nice if I could increase my skill. So I went to the University of Southern Maine, and they have a program for American Sign Language. But for me, it was not a good fit because it was in the linguistics department. And linguistics is the scientific study of language. Where,
Very intense, my mother studied linguistics. Yeah.
oh, is that right? Yeah. Uh, it just was not working. My brain does not work that way. But they did have a minor in deaf studies. So I was fortunate that I could continue that. And by the time I figured out that linguistics was not going to work, I had completed some classes and other subjects and found I really did enjoy writing. I enjoyed writing my papers, um, and just thought, well, that might be the way to go.
Right. And you and I have talked how, and this is the way it goes on the journey. You try something, it doesn't work, you learn, you try something else, and you have you have that happen to you in this story of you being a writer more than once. So
Hmm.
so you realized this wasn't for you. I think you were then enrolled in media study.
Media studies,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And so people liked your writing, you had a good teacher. Um, so then what?
Well, I started writing in like one of the classes that was really uh, made a big change for me. Um, you talk about the mentors at work on the journey, and one of the professors I had, it was for a public speaking class, and I actually waited 2 semesters to get into the class because it was very popular. You may be familiar with, she's a local writer, Elizabeth Peavy, and she wrote for the
Yes,
Casco Bay Weekly,
yes.
and she had a column called Out of My Way. And it was funny, it was interesting, and it was the first time I had ever followed a writer. I love to read, but I never had a columnist or someone that I recognized their writing and really look forward to it. So she was teaching public speaking, so I just had to take the class.
Hmm.
The interesting thing about the class was that we had to write a number of speeches based on topics like a descriptive speech, a persuasive speech, things like that. And it was my descriptive speech. Um, I used to work in Boston, and I took the subway every day and met my husband at Park Street Station. He came from another end of town, and we would meet in the middle and go down into the subway. And she had talked about how when you do any kind of writing or a speech, your first line should be so compelling that it makes the person in the last row with their head down spring forward and say, "What? What are they talking about?"
Wow. Yes.
And so she read us a sample of a piece of writing, and I wrote about my subway trip on a hot day, and my opening line was, "The scent of urine mixed with grime was barely noticeable as we entered the subway station." And she loved it.
She
And
loved it. I bet she did.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it just sort of awoken something in me, and I said, "That's it. I just love this."
Yeah. So your powers of noticing, it's like using all your senses and really paying attention.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, okay, but then you talk about, so that's now you're on adventure road. You're into your adventure. You have committed, you're taking the course and then you said that your comfort zone kind of lured you back. How to describe that for us?
Well, I started, media studies includes journalism and a lot of writing and things like that that I was interested in. But that again meant I would have to start a new career or look for work or, create a whole resume of things. And in the time that I had left my big account, other clients had referred other people to me. So my business has grown again. So I was sort of back to where I started as far as when I went to school. I'm ready to graduate and I had a lot of clients and it was easy. Um, and so I just,
Right, right.
and one of the things too, I think, was I got a big magazine job, and I love magazines. So um, it was just easy.
It
So
was,
I,
yeah, tempting.
mm,
You could do it. You were getting paid. So I just want to say this because this is something that I've noticed that people have these yearnings to do something that they love, like you did, and you're into the writing, and they might be doing art or something and it's not paying money. And
Hmm.
so they're having to take on another job in order to keep doing what they love. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
No, I don't think so either.
right,
Yeah.
right,
I think, I mean, you do have to pay the bills,
right.
and you just do what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah,
But I didn't let it go. I decided that in the meantime, I had written a letter, and all these things sort of happened around the same time. I was close to my in-laws, my husband's father and his partner, but I was very shy when I was young, and I just would never pick up the phone. I mean, that was just not going to happen. But I wanted to find a way to let them know that I think of them when we're not seeing them. So I decided I would try to write to them occasionally, and they enjoyed that. But one day I thought, oh, I'd like to write, but I don't know what to write about. So as I walked around the house and gathered my supplies, I heard the neighbors have chickens, and you might appreciate this. I know you have yours,
yes, a chicken owner.
right? And I heard them squawking, and they caught my ear, but it was fairly loud, so I checked on them because it seemed louder than usual. They were fine, which was good, but I used it as a story in a letter to them, and I can't tell you how much they enjoyed it. It was just so surprising to me.
Right,
And again, it was another moment where I said, "Wow, that it's the story." I mean, they like the mail. They like to see the envelope when they open their mailbox. But then when they open the letter, and I said the first line, again, that first line is key. I said, the neighbor's chickens are squawking, you know, and, they talked to me about it after they got the letter. They called, and then we saw them and they talked about the letter and the chickens. So I really started to get the sense that story was the way to uh,
right.
capture people's attention.
And you told me that you had this light bulb moment that letters are stories, letters are writing, that you were writing. And can you just, so you have this active letter writing, which you have called a hobby, but I would say practice, or where you have how many? You have a lot of pen pals, yes?
I do, because I started a website called Postmark 1206. It's no longer a live site, but on the site, I did say, because it was a letter writing site, I invited people to get in touch and get a real postcard welcome, I called it. So if they wanted to supply me with their address, I would write to them. And I did get a lot of people responding, and I would send them a postcard, but I tucked it inside a letter. So that was great because a lot of people wrote back to me. A lot of
Right.
people didn't, but I still have pen pals now. Um, I have a pen pal in Ireland, one in France, one in Australia, a number of people in the United States, and we've never met. Even with the computers, we do not know each other face to face. We don't speak to one another. We strictly write to one another.
Wow. And we're talking about longhand writing.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
get an envelope and you take a piece of paper out and yeah.
Yeah,
So I want to say to you that nobody does this anymore, right? I mean, it's very rare
it
to
is
have,
rare.
yeah,
Uh, and the more I think about it, and I think that's partly why I moved away from the letter writing site, not from letter writing itself, but from the site, more to a writing focused site, because while I believe in letter writing and I think encourage people to do it, I think the biggest challenge is that finding people who will write back to you, because even I do write to a lot of people that never write to me, but I love to write letters. But I will say that there is a reward when you get mail. So if no one ever writes to you, it can be a little discouraging. So
yeah, yeah.
it's a tough one.
But so this caused you to do yet another twist in your path in that, okay, well, I love writing letters, but not everybody likes to write letters. And so now maybe what I'll be doing is focusing more on just writing. And
Yes.
that's the new website. Well, it's not new anymore, but
No.
Way
I,
Station Whistle. Yeah.
yeah. I thought Way Station Whistle is what it is now, but I did have one in between, which was short story memoir, because a lot of this writing I did was stories, and I wanted to continue that. And I thought, well, it seems like a lot what I do is write sort of memoir kind of stories. But the more I researched it and talked to people, memoir has, and it's not true. It's not always sad stories or um, things that, troubled stories, but a lot of them are. So
Yeah,
a
yes.
lot of people do associate the word memoir with, struggle and things like that. And I struggled with it for a long time. I just couldn't find my way. Letter writing wasn't wide enough uh, for the appeal to other people and to encourage other people to write. Memoir was too specific and not didn't fit right for me. And then I came up with Way Station Whistle because way stations are short stops on trains, sometimes in between big stations. And I thought that's what life is, and that's what the stories I write are little things that happen in between the big things in life. You go to work in the morning, you come home and you cook dinner, but it's things in between that catch our eye or make us think for a minute. So that's where that came
Yeah.
from.
Like the chicken squawking, like the smell in the subway station.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, so then again, different twists in your road keep informing you about what's working and what you want to do, which do you think you've arrived at, okay, this is it? Or do you think something else is going to start creeping in?
I don't know. I think that I feel like I'm getting closer. I don't know that I've arrived. I think that I just recently came up with a tagline that I like, which is pausing to um, celebrate the wins, small wins, and wonder about the day in short story, because
Mhm.
that's where I really like to focus is short story. And so I feel like I have a tagline. Now my thing is to find a way. One of the things I found was it was right after I graduated. I had written a number of short stories for different classwork, and I put them in a small book, like a chapbook, where it's like 20 pages. And there was something very gratifying about having my work in a book, even if it wasn't published widely. I mean, I printed about 25 copies and gave them out to, you know, my family. But I can pull that off the shelf, and I really, even though they're my stories and I know them, when I reread them, it's interesting. It feels good. It's nice to remember certain things that I may have forgotten. So I think my next step is to see if I can find a way to share with other people a way to put their writing in a book. I mean,
Mm. Oh
I've
my gosh. I think you'd find a definite audience because so many people that I've met, writers, have a book in them, but it
mhm.
seems so overwhelming. And a way to just sort of get started. And, you know, yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, and I mean like short stories. I'm not talking about a novel, uh,
Right.
but I think a lot of writers have written shorter pieces
Hmm.
where you could put them in a chapbook. So I think that that would be. I've done a few of my own stories in um, handmade book form, but that's very challenging. I
Well, you don't mean, you mean the other kind of him, not these.
Well,
Right.
those, yeah, that I published. Those are published through Amazon, which
Yeah.
is the book with the blue envelope piece on it. That one is a handmade book, which is a different
Right.
beast altogether. So that's
Because it's not published anymore, I'm sure someday I can sell this for a lot on Etsy.
you can
Or
try.
eBay. I would never do it. It is such a beautiful book. But yeah, and so the talk about a few good things because one of the types of ways of journaling that I do is the morning pages, which I think
Hmm.
you know about.
Yes.
That's Julia Cameron, wrote
Hmm.
The Artist's Way. And
Yeah.
one way to get your creativity going is to just start writing longhand every day, 3 pages, and get everything out. And a lot of it can be complaining and, oh, I don't believe this happened to me. And people have said to me, Susanna, I can't do it because I don't want to start my day with all that grumbling and complaining. And so
Mm.
here's a book, a journal, a few good things about today. So tell me how this came about.
Well, it sort of follows my writing style. I like to write about things that make me feel good.
Okay.
Um, but it also comes from the past few years have been difficult for me. My mother was not well and she passed away. And then my husband's mother was not well and she passed away. So
Sorry for your loss, Chrissy. Yeah,
thank you.
that's
And
very hard.
for anybody, it's a tough time. And there were days when I just was discouraged. And I did the morning pages, but I tell you, I shredded them. I just don't, and I still write sometimes, about my feelings or things that are important to me. But when I'm done, I get rid of them. And I know a lot of people hold on to that stuff, but that's not something I like to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd done a lot of reading when I was struggling, and there's the gratitude journals and all of those sorts of things. And I had stumbled on, I think his name is Sean Acor, and he talks about writing down good things. Um, and I thought, well, I'm going to try that, and I did, at the end of the day, I can say it does make a difference. I tend to do it at the end of the day. You could do it in the morning or any time of day that you want, but especially at the end of a bad day, when you're discouraged or you're tired or you're weary, sometimes just that bowl of soup that was warm
Mm.
can be very comforting. I like to bake, so it's very soothing for me. So sometimes if I make a batch of cookies, I'll write that in there. Um, Sometimes it's the neighbor, it might say hi to you. Someone holds the door for you. And I think it sort of creates this mind shift where you've been so discouraged in a negative place that if you can find a few things, and usually you can. I mean, I have never had a day when I couldn't, maybe take me a few minutes, and I might have to say,
Right.
okay, well, what happened this morning? And I have to run through my day to come up with them. But I do, and it makes me feel good.
And it could be, I think going out in nature, you can find so many things, right? I mean,
Yes.
just seeing a cardinal, the red of a cardinal, or um,
Hmm.
hearing some wonderful bird song, or yeah, yeah,
Or
my
hearing a woodpecker over here and then another woodpecker over there.
right. Yeah. I had a coach, Jake Ballantyne, and he always talked about focusing on the good because
Hmm.
when you focus on the good, it tends to bring more good your way. I wonder if you've discovered that. The more you do it, the more you notice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, I write up my blog, I write once a week on Sundays. And most Sundays I try to do a story. Other days it may just be something I write about, something that's happened, maybe not a poem, but a lot of times I will write a poem. But what I find is that I think some days, oh, I don't know what I'll write about. I can't figure this out. But then when I sit down and I start, something always does come. And it sounds a little like, oh yeah, everybody says that, but it's really true.
Yeah.
If you just, and even if I start and it's not what I end up with, it was the starting it that made it happen.
Yeah. And all right, here's a question. And I get your wonderful newsletter every Sunday. And you pointed out in the last one that I think it was the 23rd of June is letter writing day. There's
Mhm.
actually a letter writing day. But I just wonder, what do you start on the computer or do you start your writing for your newsletter longhand?
I usually start longhand.
So
Um,
that's interesting. Why is that?
I think because I'm somewhere not near my computer and my computer's not on, so I just start writing. And then it's a mess. I have 4 or 5 pages of scratch outs and arrows and circles.
Mhm.
And then I go to the computer and I clean it up. Um, and
This,
that's one of the things, too, I think about becoming a writer. As a graphic designer, my job was always to arrange words and images. And I love words and I love language. And one of the things I really love, which I don't think a lot of writers do, but I'm sure many do as well, is the rewrite process. Because that I think is where that's where good writing comes together. Um, and to be able to take one word out and replace it with another word, sometimes to me, it's almost like magic because it's just
Mm,
finally I figured out how to say what I was thinking.
right,
And
right.
it's a puzzle.
I have a feeling you don't use Chat GPT.
No,
No.
no.
I know.
So,
Forgive me, I had to ask it.
oh yeah, no, so a lot of writers are using it. I've seen people write articles about using it and how to do it, and
Oh,
um,
yeah, that's
you
a
know,
whole nother discussion,
mhm,
I think, Chrissy.
right.
And one thing I know too about you is that you have several typewriters, like the old-fashioned. Yeah,
I
how many?
do.
Tell us how many.
I have 9 typewriters. I had to stop because I had written an article once about the size of your collection because depending on what you decide to collect, um, typewriters are an issue because they're fairly large. So 9 is more than I need. So I'm thinking about trying to sell off a few of them, but I have a few that and then I look at them and I say, oh, but I can't get rid of that one, and I found this one when I did this. Um, but yes, I do.
And I think you've given classes using those typewriters.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's always fun. Um, and even I mean, I learned to type when I was in high school, and I could. The keys are hard to press. They're not like a computer screen keyboard. You
Right.
really have to. So I peck away with 2 fingers on the typewriter. But yes, the younger people, especially, they don't even know how to put a piece of paper in. They
Right.
have no idea. Um,
Right. Then there was carbon paper, and then there was whiteout, and having to do the return, and
oh yeah, yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh. Yes. And Tom Hanks, I think, has like typewriters he collects in the hundreds.
Oh yes, yes he does. Yeah, he started to give away a few of them apparently, but yes, he's got some beauties. Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, you are holding on to something that is kind of disappearing. Maybe it will come back, the letter writing. I just have to tell you that, and you know about the trip that I just took with several women to Ireland.
Hmm.
I made them all write a letter to themselves.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
going to be mailing these letters to them on August 1st, without me reading them or anything. They addressed it, sealed it.
That's
Um,
a great idea.
and they're going to get a letter in the mail. And again, it's a wonderful thing to get a letter in the mail.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's just nothing like it.
So maybe you can start more of a movement that we start. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to the world? Maybe we're going to go back to the times when John Adams wrote a letter to his wife, and he was in Philadelphia and she was in Massachusetts or something, and it took 2 months for her to get her letter.
I know. I
Oh
know.
my gosh.
Well,
Well,
that's part of the appeal. I think that when you send a letter to someone, it's the time in between when I imagine when they go to the mailbox and they see that and they pick it up and hold it
I
just a
know.
little bit closer for just a minute, a
Right,
split second rather. And
right.
it's the anticipation. And I get mail from people and I don't even have to look at the return address. I know by the handwriting who that's from.
Yeah. And that's a whole other thing. Handwriting is not what it used to be. And yeah, oh my goodness. Well, so I asked for permission to read this wonderful book of yours, Things I Notice When I Walk the Dog,
Hmm.
because it truly is a poem. I
Yes.
and I like to read that, and before we close, I'm going to ask you that one question which you could be thinking about. We talked about so much, and people have been listening, and people are busy and they only take in so much and they move on to the next thing. But this has been such a rich conversation, Chrissy, because it involves so many things, the noticing, the paying attention, how your path can twist and turn in the heroine's journey, but don't give up. You'll find the thing if you keep going. So much. So if you could be thinking, what do you want to make sure people remember? And I will read Things I Notice When I Walk the Dog.
Okay.
And this is for Agatha. And Agatha, is Agatha still with us?
No.
Oh,
No. But
oh,
she is because I have the book. So
yes. And now they'll learn about Agatha.
that's right.
Agatha is a droopy-eared, long-eared, droopy-eyed, long-eared, short-legged, scent-sniffing basset hound. And I'm not going to show all the pictures, but there's Agatha. Agatha and I go for a walk every day. Well, almost every day. If the rain blows sideways or the snow drifts high against the back door, we cozy up inside. We walk on sidewalks and side streets, beaches and boardwalks. We walk through parking lots, parks, farms, and fields. And when we walk, Agatha likes to sniff and stop and sniff and stop again. She sniffs at signposts and fence posts, footprints and paw prints, other people and other dogs. And while she sniffs, I wait. And while I wait, I notice things. I notice morning dew dampens my sneakers, pigeons perch on power lines, cats stop short at the sight of us, and full moon shadows follow our lead. I notice apples and acorns and gardens with gourds. When it does snow and we do walk, I sometimes look to the sky and wonder, do the rabbit, the bear, and the buck look up too? And I just have to show you that because they're all looking up. But most of all, I notice when I don't feel like going for a walk, but we go anyway, I'm glad we did. And I think Agatha notices too.
Very nice. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Yes. And how many of us have walked a dog and noticed that they're so noticing and they're sniffing and all the smells and we could be irritated at first. Oh no, you're stopping again, Agatha. But
Mhm.
but it helps us slow down and pay attention. So tell us what of all that we've talked about do you want to make sure people heard?
Well, I think the Agatha book is a big part of it. I think it is stopping sometimes. And then I think it's also that we have to take a step forward. Not always to say take the next step or the right step, but to take a step forward, because I think that's where we find the answers that we're looking for. At least for me, that is. Once I start, I often don't end up where I think I was going, but at least I know if I just sit at the desk or step outside, that's going to make a difference. So I would say take a step forward.
Right. And just think if you had stayed with your big client and not ventured forth and taken that course and how different things would be.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I would just have a lot of client work and not so much of my own. So it's gratifying to have my own work.
Well, I can't wait to see what your next step forward is going to be, whether it'll be that class working on short stories or more letter writing or yeah. So I look forward to getting your weekly newsletter. And again, for people, and again, this will be in the show notes, but it's waystationwhistle.com. And waystation, of course, is one word. So, Chrissy, thank you.
Well, thank you, Susanna. The heroine's journey is real and it
Yeah.
has many, many twists and turns, and it's gratifying and rewarding and challenging. And I thank you for the inspiration that you give us all.
You are very welcome, and it's so true. And we had our own little kerfuffle trying to get you to speak, and it was me and my silly just needing to unplug my microphone. So, okay, well, I look forward to seeing you out in the world. And everyone, thank you for listening and joining us today. And I hope you'll listen in for the next guests that I have next month. Okay.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the podcast for real life heroines. your time and presence mean the world to us. If you're hungry for more inspiration and ready to craft your own heroine story, connect with Susanna outside of the show. Visit SusannaLillard.com to discover her courses and programs designed to empower you on your journey. Until next time, may your days be filled with the courage and strength of a true heroine. Stay inspired.